LinkedIn wasn't the only measure of investor appetite this week. There was also Glencore's successful trading debut in London. We've had a spate of M&A deal announcements too, from the likes of Takeda Pharmaceuticals, Toshiba too. Our next guest has more than 20 years' experience advising on international deals and share sales. He's been involved in a number of listings of FTSE 100 companies. Richard Weaver leads the capital markets group at PricewaterhouseCoopers. Hi, Richard.
Morning.
LinkedIn doubling on its first day. Reminds me of sort of the mid-1990s, doesn't it? Is there some sort of comparison? Can we link the two eras?
I think there is a link between the eras, but I think that's a slightly easy jump, because if you look at the background to LinkedIn, there are successful business models. The social media is a very hot area, and you can look at companies that have got some very serious fundamentals. I think the question about LinkedIn is how heroic those growth assumptions are. And
how heroic do you think they are? A little bit toppy?
I would say that you'd be looking at that. That's saying the next 3 to 5 years are going to be pretty great for them.
Yeah. Many are saying that it's the return of venture-backed IPOs. Do you think that's on the cards now?
I think there's certainly a sort of wealth of optimism coming through in a number of sort of spaces, but I think you'd have to look at see the different sectors have got different appetites, so I don't think it's across the piece. I think you've got to look very much at the tech space.
Are we going to see a lot more social networking, internet-related IPOs taking advantage of the LinkedIn offering?
I think there's undoubtedly got to be some sort of surfing effect there, and you'd expect to see a lot of appetite for companies to look to see if they can cash in now.
What was your appetite like for Glencore? I mean, at 5:30, it went up, finished the day at 5:30. Is this one for the long term?
Well, I think Glencore, amongst other companies, has got a good underlying story, hasn't it? I mean, the commodities story, the China growth story, there's absolutely substance there. And one thing you would say about that float is that it's been trailed a long time with a lot of support, so it should be pretty well supported.
Is that the key? Talk to me about the appetite, the story that a company needs to have right now to have a succccessful listing.
Well, I think if you contrast as a fairly dismal first quarter across the IPO story generally, and then you look at Glencore, the largest IPO on the UK market. So what's the story there? I think it's about investors looking for growth. So the growth story is what's absolutely fundamental in terms of them going for a stock or not.
IPOs in Europe, as you say, wasn't the best first quarter, was it?
No.
Some factors contributing to that. I mean, the European sovereign debt crisis, will that continue to weigh on Europe?
Well, clearly the macroeconomic picture is very important in terms of investor pricing, particularly. I mean, some of those companies that didn't get away, good, perhaps outstanding companies, but the expectation in terms of buyer and seller wasn't met. So I think if you've still got that economic overhang, that's really going to be an issue in terms of price expectation.
What about Hong Kong? Because that was where all the action was last year. More of the same in 2011?
Well, Hong Kong 2010, a couple of absolutely mega deals in AIA and Agbank. So unless we see similar mega deals this year, maybe value is going to be down. But still, it's a massive retail market. It's a massive market that is open to the Chinese, Far Eastern story. So expect to see more activity there, certainly.
How long before we get back to the toppy levels of 3-4 years ago?
Well, I think in terms of UK and Europe, unfortunately at the moment, even for an optimist myself, that's looking quite a distant call.
Okay, thank you very much for joining us.